Had to break this up into two. I don't know what happened. But going back to Ukraine, Ukraine's critical geopolitical importance to us. The most aggressive geopolitical adversary that we have had since the end of the Cold War has been Putin's Russia. Not Yeltsin's Russia, not Gorbachev's Russia. Not the Russia we fought World War II with. People may say, what's the distinction there? One was actually good at fighting wars. That's the cold one. If Putin was actually able to steamroll Ukraine with minimal casualties and occupy Kyiv and be creating that parade that they were preparing so heavily for instead of actually fighting a war, this whole world would be in a different situation. I know I don't have it on record, but on day one of World War III, on day one of the war in Ukraine, somebody asked me, is this World War III? And I said, it will be if we do not let Ukraine win. And the cold hard truth is, Ukraine can win. They should win and they would win if we stopped pussyfooting around the situation. If somebody's kicked your friend's ass, somebody's kicked their friend's ass, and then they're knocking on your door, and you could have helped your first friend before they were a threat, but now they're beating up your siblings, they're beating up your family, what do you do then when you could have stepped in when it was just your friend getting attacked? And that's what people don't realize. It's the stated objective of the Russian Federation to roll back NATO's eastern expansion. Now, it is a debatable point for some about NATO expansion. I don't agree with that being a debatable point. There was never any agreements found. There was never any ratified treaties that said anything about the sort. And if you look into it, it was a representative, not of Gorbachev, but an ambassador of some sort and a US politician who didn't have the jurisdiction to be making geopolitical decisions like that, had an off-the-cuff conversation that never sprouted into a single noteworthy thing till years later, till after Yeltsin wasn't in office, or his second election when it became politically viable for him to use that as a cudgel, right? Something that everybody gets wrong. You can't de-escalate when somebody starts a full-blown war. There's no de-escalation from that. That is the escalation. If you see somebody getting raped in the street, do you wait till there's a breakup in the assault and then start telling the victim that they need to make peace? If that's really what you think, I don't want to disparage anybody's opinion, but you shouldn't be involved in foreign policy unless you get your own personal preferences sorted out. Now, with that being said, we are a member of NATO. We are one of the highest ranking members of NATO. And they don't have a tier list, but in terms of what they can provide and what can be done. We owe it to Ukraine, but by treaty. We owe it to the Baltics. We owe it to Poland. We owe it to the majority of Europe. The only members of Europe, the European family, that we aren't obliged to fight by contract is Belarus, Moldova, and Ukraine. Belarus has been occupied by Russia since at least the late 90s. The war in Ukraine started 10 years ago during the war in the Donbass, the annexation of Crimea, and we have been sleeping. Our adversaries have been calling this World War III for over a decade. They've been hungry wolves scratching at our door to come for our spot. And this is a double-edged sword for both sides of the aisle. You cannot keep America great if you do not appreciate what it took to get here. The number one reason why America is great is because of our friends. And if you want to ignore that, you want to pretend that we can control the economy, that we can control the traffics of trade, that we can do anything like this, we fought for it. We built the majority of the world after World War II. We owe it to humanity to fulfill that obligation. Right now, I can't say I have full support of my government. I can't say I have full support of anything. But I do believe in us more than I believe in them by orders of magnitude that it isn't even comparable. I might not think that my government is perfect, but when I compare them apples to apples, like to our near peer adversaries, blow them off of the face of the map. I don't like it when people compare the United States to Iceland, Greenland, or Denmark. When you produce enough natural resources to fully, sufficiently provide every need for your people, God bless you. That is amazing. But when your role as a nation isn't just to provide for your people, but to guarantee the safety of the vast majority of the world, the majority of the nations on the planet, you can't just sit idly by and assume that those things are something that you're entitled to. America isn't guaranteed its spot. America isn't guaranteed anything. It is our friends that guarantee everything. And if we don't follow through on our word, if we do not give our friends a reason to believe and have faith in us and what we have, we will quickly find ourselves alone and is the weak one out of the pick. I'll be damned if I let my compatriots, my country, my family, and our friends fall by the wayside of my priorities. I'll never distrust my neighbor enough to lose focus of us. I will never distrust the other political party enough to distract me from us. And what I mean by that is no matter if you got here yesterday or if you've been here for 600 years or whatever, I believe in you if you believe in me. And when somebody's willing to sing our national anthem as their country gets invaded and all of their rights get desecrated and everything that they believed in gets destroyed, but they still sing our national anthem, we owe it to them. Every fiber of our being, we owe it to them to give them what they need. If somebody's crying out to you in the middle of the darkest point in their life and they say, I just want to hold your hand. That's all they want. They don't want you to help them through their darkness. They just want to know that you're there. How is that hard? How is that hard? One country says, I don't believe in you. I don't believe in your people. I don't believe in what you believe. I think you're my enemy. I think we're at war. What else does it need to take before you start realizing that they consider this World War III? When they're taking our allies' territory, like the Philippines and the Scarborough Shoal, when they're taking our friends' territory, like the Donbass and Crimea, when they're taking our friends' territory in the borders between India and China, what do we do? Right now, Alaska isn't under threat. Right now, Guam isn't under threat. But when it is, I guarantee that the United States will be pleading anybody to listen for its cries, for its pleading for assistance, because people may forget, but our independence was founded on a proxy war. The proxy war was between France and the UK. They funded that conflict for us, and we became the world's #1 superpower. We are the one who guarantees the world's safety, free commerce of travel, independence, individual liberty, and all of those things. Even if you fucking hate America, at least you can go and protest and not have your organs harvested for that or sent to the front lines in a war that you never wanted to be a part of. That is obvious. Yes, we might not be Finland. Yes, we might not be Iceland. Yes, we might not be France. But I can guarantee you we're the #1 most well-integrated nation on the face of this planet. You could be Italian in France and be discriminated more than you could be purple in America. If you are an American born in another country but believe what I believe, you are more American than somebody who's born here and believes the opposite. You fight your whole life to make it to my country. You're willing to sacrifice every single thing it takes to get here. I'd be damned if I turned you away. Our country needs you more than you need us. And I know that might be hard for some people to grasp right now, but America wouldn't be a fucking thing without our friends. Now, I would say I'm center. I used to say I'm center right. If I were to bet it right now, maybe center left, but the politics has moved around me. I haven't moved around the politics. I believe in safeguarding our interest, which is to make sure those who are crying out in desperation for our help get answered. Whether we answer it in the way that is the way we want or the way that they want. As long as we at least do one and we do not sit by, fine. Fine. That's why my political ideology hasn't changed. The ideology of politics has switched around me. At one point in my life, it was one side of the aisle that was for making sure America hold its place at number one. Totally flipped in the last 20 years. If it's not on me, it's not on you. You don't have to vote based on your your personal identification, right? Like, one person did something good, they deserve the credit for that thing that they did. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle, and I agree with a lot of both in terms of the foreign policy decisions. Not everything. But if there's a point that I want to drive home, right now we are paying the consequences of past indecisions. Nothing else. Nothing else. There's not a political play being pulled right now. There is not some sort of game being played right now. There's not some globalist order trying to finesse a certain outcome. Right now, there are wolves with a taste of blood on their tongue looking for weakness, and they can sense it underneath our door. And if we do not meet them with overwhelming force, or at least of equal force, minimum, we're already dead. I hope that isn't the case, but if Americans don't believe in each other as much as I believe in you, and as much as I believe in them, all of our friends, we're already fucked. So, Slava Ukraini, Heriom Slava, God bless America, God bless you, God bless our friends, and God bless everybody. Good vibes bless you, whatever it is that you believe. But I just want it to be known, indecision is worse than anything.